Hey, what is up, mortals? It is Jessica Gem here with a new video for you. Welcome to part 6 of What If Deku Never Returned to UA. I wanted to greet you guys by saying, sit back and relax, you're in for a treat. And so, we begin. When he chose to leave those months ago, he did so out of necessity. He was a target, which made everyone around him a target as well. Shigaraki and All for One were after him, and it was his responsibility to take them down and restore peace to their hero society. He left because he couldn't stand to see anyone else die, anyone else get hurt, anyone else suffer for something he was responsible for. One for All was a power passed down through generations, all to fight the pure evil which is All for One. And finally, after all the death and destruction, it was time. Time to fulfill that destiny. Time to end it all. He was given the power for a reason. That power had purpose, and that purpose was to save, protect, and end All for One. But it wasn't that easy. It never was. He had to say goodbye to the people he loved, the people who meant everything to him. People who he might never see again. People who he might never be able to hug or laugh with. It was the hardest thing he had ever had to do. But he did it. He left, and he refused to look back. Not until he finished what his predecessors had started all those years ago. Villain after villain he fought tooth and nail. One for All was always a strong power, but never before did he realize just how powerful it really was. All for One's disciples all crumbled to the ground before him, and every time he beat them, he would ask the same question. Why? Why do they rage? Why do they kill? Why do they hurt? Why do they destroy? He'd get different answers every time. But he had been beginning to understand a little better. But that didn't matter in the end. All that mattered was that he had gotten closer. Closer to Shigaraki. Closer to All for One. With each villain he defeated, the path became clearer and clearer until finally he was standing 3 feet away from the man who had caused so much pain and suffering. The man who had taken everything away from him. And he was ready. He was ready to end it, once and for all. And then he asked that same damn question. Why? Whether it be the onslaught of villains sent after him, or the hellscape of carnage released upon Japan, something would always get in the way. And then, it was Shigaraki himself, stating his drive and will, and for once Izuku felt like he might have understood. Even if on the smallest of levels. No one would let him fulfill his purpose, to save, to protect, and now to achieve it all, he would have to kill. Kill the very thing this society created. Kill a version of himself. Someone who started off just like him. And what's worse this time? Instead of villains and destroyers, ideology and pain, it was the people he loved, the people he did all this for. They stood 3 feet away, and they tried to stop him. At first, it was his teachers and fellow pro heroes who refused to let him stay alone for too long. Then, it was All Might, following after him and endangering himself. He was able to break free of them. He'd keep his distance and stay away from them. Protect them from the danger that follows his every waking breath. But then, it was his friends. The entire class, following him, chasing after him, trying to stop him from going at it alone. They risked their lives for him. They fought him together just to try and save him. But he was able to get away, time and time again. Every time they showed up, fewer and fewer would be there. A few were injured by attacks near UA. Some were pulled out of the hero course altogether by their parents. Others simply gave up. Never those three, though. Ochako, Todoroki, and Kacchan. They were always there. Ida too, but after his latest injury, Izuku doubted he'd be able to keep up. They never would just let him go. Over and over and over and over and over again they came, and now they were all here. Right here, where Shigaraki stood, where he touched the ground and sent a wave of destruction barreling towards the people he loved. All Might, Aizawa, Todoroki, Ochako, Kacchan. Were they okay? Were they safe? Or were they dead? This video is sponsored by NordVPN. Staying safe online is an ever-growing difficulty, and hackers could exploit you. NordVPN allows you to change your IP address, making you harder to track, securing your privacy. In addition to providing you a safe passage through the web, you can also expand the reach of your favorite streaming services. Are you tired of going through 2, 3, or even 4 streaming services to watch your favorite anime? Well, with NordVPN, you can change your country and be able to binge shows like My Hero Academia, Naruto, and many others on your favorite streaming service with just the press of a button. Check out the link in the description to get 72% off when buying for 2 years at $3.29 a month. This deal is for a limited time. And thank you to NordVPN for sponsoring this video. He saw it first, just as the pros arrived nearby. He tried to warn them. Run! But it was too late. The destruction sped out, and Izuku jumped in the air just as it crumbled away the ground beneath him. He caught himself with float, and just as fast he whipped his head around to try and find them. He couldn't see them below. The debris was too thick, the dust too thick. He tried to fly up higher to get a better view, but exhaustion was hitting him. Please be okay. Please be okay. His heart pounded faster and faster as he forced his body to move. He had to find them. He had to make sure they were all right. He couldn't lose them, not now, not after everything. Out of nowhere, his head screams, and to his left, a huge blast of air rocked into him. The pain was sharp, but he pushed through it, scrambling to orient himself in the air. His vision was still a little blurry, but he could make out the figure through the smoke. Shigaraki. You just won't stay down. The villain sneered, and Izuku's blood ran cold. You're like a roach. No matter how many times I hit you, you keep squirming around like the pest that you are. The figure disappeared back into the smoke, and with every bone in his body, Deku held himself back. His friends, his loved ones, they were all in danger. He had to get to them. He had to save them. Shigaraki can wait. One for All kicks in once more, and in a flash, he's soaring through the air. The blast radius of Shigaraki's last attack was wide. It covered multiple miles, but thankfully, it didn't reach any cities. He only hopes they were able to get out. It's a few more minutes of flying and searching endlessly before he feels the presence of All for One behind him. So many questions flew through his head, but there was no time to answer. Izuku Midoriya, One for All will be mine! With a sudden burst of wind, Izuku stops midair and whips around. A large crack booms through the air as his metal-plated shoe connects with Shigaraki's face. In only a second, he's sent flying backwards, crashing into a mountain off in the distance. A sharp sting travels up Izuku's leg, and he bites down on his lip to stop from screaming. 100% of One for All still hurts him, but it's enough to keep Shigaraki down for at least another minute or two. Uraraka, Kacchan, Todoroki, are you okay? His eyes widen in horror as he slowly lowers to the ground. The pain in his leg is forgotten as he scans the area for any sign of his friends. Please answer me. Where are you? He can feel the tears racing down his cheeks, his throat tightening as the seconds pass. They have to be okay. They have to be alive. He didn't know how long he spent searching fruitlessly for any sign of them, screaming at the top of his lungs, trying to, but his body finally gave out, and he fell back to the ground with a thud. He tried to get back up and tried to keep moving, but his body wouldn't listen. It was too weak, too tired. He'd used up too much energy, used up too much of his quirk. He laid there in the rubble, trying to catch his breath, trying to find the strength to keep going. The voice of the vestiges floated around his mind, but he couldn't quite make out what they were saying. It all just sort of faded away as he stared up at the deep blue sky. He had to find them. He had to know they were okay. He closed his eyes and let out a deep breath. He'd get up and he'd find them. He has more to give. He has more energy. He just needs to stand up and keep moving. When he opened them again, he saw a hand. A single hand reaching out to him from the rubble and dust. A pale and thin white hand. No, not this early. He isn't supposed to die yet. He can't let Shigaraki win. He still has a responsibility. One for All can't be lost. He can't lose. Everything he's ever thought, felt, and experienced, all flashing through his mind as the fingers crept out through the smoke. Suddenly, he's transported back to when he was just a little kid, cowering, afraid, useless. Useless Deku. Maybe that's all he ever was. Now that death stares at him, maybe Kacchan had been right. What was he doing out here? Quirkless Deku. Useless Deku. Trying to save people? Of course he would fail. Or he didn't? The hand grabs his arm, and just as he's prepared to crumble away and lose One for All, lose his friends, lose everything, nothing happens? Instead, he feels a warm embrace grab his arms and pull him close. That embrace felt familiar.
Young Midoriya, it's all right. We are here now.
Everything became a blur as he was pulled up and away from the crater. The smoke and dirt snuck their way into his throat and eyes. Tears fought their way out and he coughed over and over.
Hawk's got everyone off the ground. You don't need to worry anymore. They're safe.
The voice was muffled, as if coming from underwater, but he could still make out the words. It was All Might. Everyone?
Yes, Aizawa's using his quirk and Endeavor is keeping Tomura Shigaraki busy. We're using this opportunity to get you all out of here.
No, I can't leave them alone. I need to do this. It's what One for All was made for.
Young Midoriya.
All Might's grip tightened and Izuku's arms collapsed from exhaustion.
You've done enough. It's time you let us help you.
Izuku tried to struggle, tried to get away, but he was too weak. Deep down he knew All Might was right. He'd done enough. One for All couldn't be lost and he couldn't die. Not now. Not when they were so close. But he couldn't accept it. He couldn't be useless. Not again. Not anymore. The useless Deku died a long time ago. And yet, he can't fight it. Exhaustion takes over, and his eyes close. His mind, however, clings to one thing. The fleeting thoughts of a useless Deku. The self-doubt rising to the surface. Was he really the right choice? Could he really ever be a hero? Thank you all for indulging yourselves in the content thus far. I hope you've enjoyed it. Now there are a few more things I'd like to go over before the video ends. Firstly, I'd like to say if you're in the mood for some great storytelling, We the Celestials has you covered. our We the Celestials, My Hero Academia, and Naruto What If channels retell the story of their namesake anime with a twist. Check it out if you're interested. Secondly, on behalf of We the Celestials, I'd like to thank everyone involved in today's excellent content production. Their details can be found in the description below. Lastly, if you're interested in what we do here at We the Celestials, I'd like to extend an invitation to join the team. The only caveat is that we only accept members from 16 years and older to join our crew. You can sign up for whichever category fulfills your interests by joining the recruitment Discord using the link in the description below. We're always looking for members to join us. Well, that's it from us for today's video, so thank you all for watching. Farewell and have a divine day.